You guys are arguing for Strickland as the fighter of the year because he beat Abu Smagomedov and Imavov? Are you kidding me? Is this a joke? Gaethje has better wins than Sean Strickland. Gaethje beat Dustin Poirier and he beat Rafael Fiziev. 2 wins versus 3 elite wins. They're not 3 elite wins, and you know they're not elite. This is a horrible argument. It's a terrible argument. I'm literally schooling these guys of this. These people act like I have bad takes. Oh my gosh. I'm not a Strickland hater. Beating a pound for pound #1 fighter that's literally never lost is better than beating Izzy, who's a 500 level champion. People talk about Izzy. Izzy's overrated. Izzy's overrated. As soon as Strickland beats him, we beat Izzy though. And that's the fighter of the year, man. The fighter of the year is not who had the best fighting spirit. This is not a movie. This is real life. This is not the Cinderella story. It is a objective pick, and I'm right. Okay, I'm right here. I'm coming on to cook. I'm cooking with Volk. That's that pipsqueak strength for you. I gotta knock some sense into these MMA fans, man.
Fedor Emelianenko. Fedor Emelianenko. This ain't Peaches and Creamville.
Peaches and Creamville.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. It's so crazy. You give Makhachev any credit. You talk about him as fighter of the year, and people lose their minds. People hate this guy so much. And it's not just that they hate this guy. It's they love Strickland so much. Strickland's a fan favorite. They're emotionally tied to him, and they want everyone to be on board with this being Strickland's year. Listen, all bow down to all holy Strickland. This was his year. It was in many ways, but he didn't have a more successful year resume-wise. And that's what Fighter of the Year is about. Fighter of the Year is a resume-based award. It's who has the best wins. And I'm sorry, man. Beating Imavov, that ain't even fucking close. Beating Abus, it ain't even close. This ain't the Izzy on top award. That's the best argument. This is the best argument. This is not the Izzy on top award. It's not get a bunch of mediocre wins and just throw Izzy on it and you're Fighter of the Year. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. It's just not. Beating the same guy twice who is a weight class below. Okay, so for example, Khabib beating Conor McGregor, who used to be a featherweight, isn't impressive. That's not one of his best wins. Beating Dustin Poirier, who used to be a featherweight, is not a good. Charles Oliveira getting beat by Makhachev, is Charles a featherweight? I don't understand. Is Alex Pereira knocking out Sean Strickland, who used to be a welterweight, not impressive because he was a welterweight? No, that's a good comparison. That's a great comparison. It's a great comparison. You're saying weight class below. You're saying weight class below. Conor McGregor was a featherweight. Moved up, fought once a lightweight. Volkanovski had fought multiple times a lightweight throughout his career. Oh, Conor was a massive weight bully? Oh, yeah, totally, because Volkanovski is just a small featherweight. Yeah, he's not like the biggest featherweight on the roster and cuts more weight than everyone else. Yeah, terrible idea. Terrible take. Weight class below. How many guys have moved up a weight class and had success? You think it's just the contenders? You think it's just the run-of-the-mill contenders like Gilbert Burns? It's not just the number 9 ranked guy or the guy that can't get ranked that can move up a weight class and then all of a sudden be a title contender. It's also the champions that benefit from that too. How many times have we seen champions move up and win a belt? Henry Cejudo beat Marlon Moraes. GSP beats Michael Bisping. We have a lot of examples. Conor McGregor beats Eddie Alvarez. DC goes up and beats Stipe Miocic. When Stipe beats DC, is he beating a light heavyweight? It's the only argument that they do because it's Makhachev. And that argument is always paired with Makhachev hasn't beat a lightweight. Oh, really? He hasn't beat a lightweight? What about beating Charles Oliveira, second best lightweight to ever do it? How about beating him in 2 rounds? And then you compare how easily he made the big lightweight Charles Oliveira look and compare that to how he made Volk look the first time. Close fight. So this idea of Volk just being a featherweight is literally retarded. It is. Volk is a small lightweight. He's a short lightweight, but he's not a walkover lightweight. He literally gave Makhachev the toughest fight of his entire life. Okay? He gave him the toughest fight of his life. A much tougher fight than the most well-rounded fighter in the lightweight division. Okay? Let that sink in. This is not, oh, Charles is one-dimensional. The most well-rounded fighter in the lightweight division, the second greatest lightweight of all time, was so easy for Makhachev in comparison to the first Volk fight, which proves that Volk is a good fighter at lightweight. Like, how is this hard to understand? You guys are arguing for Strickland as the fighter of the year because he beat Abu Smagomedov and Imavov? Are you kidding me? Is this a joke? We may as well give Lupi Gudina as fighter of the year because she had 4 wins over the 3 that Strickland has. This isn't the popularity contest. It's not the Izzy on top award, cherry on top. It ain't the, oh, if you beat Izzy, oh, all bets are off. That's it. That's not what it is. It's also not. Why are albinos naturally angry? Because it's the short man's chip. And you know what else is not? It's not the, oh, we love Strickland's personality. He's so epic. So he's obviously the fighter of the year. No, dude. You will literally forget about Abu Smagomedov and Imavov. You'll never forget about that fight that Makhachev had with Volk, and you won't forget about the head kick. How many times has Izzy lost? Let me ask this question. How many times has Izzy lost before he fought Sean Strickland? He lost to Pereira, he lost to Whitaker, he lost to Yoel Romero, he lost to Jan Blachowicz. That's 4 losses. Did I miss one? And then you add it to Strickland. That's 5. How many times has Volk lost before Makhachev? Just curious. How many times has that guy lost? This is a horrible argument. It's a terrible argument. I'm literally schooling these guys of this. These people act like I have bad takes. This is literally the most bulletproof, sound take you could possibly imagine. I'm gonna. Oh fuck! I want to make an hour video on this. Should I make an hour video? Zip it up when you're done. Zip it up when you're done, dude. That's just so disrespectful, man. Holy shit, man! I'm gonna ban you from the chat. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, of course, the Makhachev fans have. I'm sorry, the Strickland fanatics that are so emotionally invested in him, which is fine. I'm a Strickland fan too, but I'm just not going to give him a participation trophy award. Okay, I give Strickland the inspirational guy of the year award. I give Strickland the hero of the year. I give him maybe the upset of the year, even though Dricus's win over Whitaker was more shocking. Fair enough. It's a little bit more. It's like more of a Cinderella story when Strickland beats Izzy in the title picture. But at the same time, it's just not a popularity contest for me. It's not who do I like better. It's who has better wins. Beating a pound for pound #1 fighter that's literally never lost is better than beating Izzy, who's a 500 level champion. 5 out of his last 10 fights have been losses. And it's better than beating Abu Smagomedov and Imavov. Those 2 wins, oh, 1 extra. I don't care. They're mid wins. Abu Smagomedov's not a mid win. That is an atrocious win. This is how I look at it. Abu Smagomedov, that guy is the 10,000th best fighter on the planet Earth. 10,000th best fighter to ever do it. I have Marty Lewis ahead of him, right? You're really bringing up Abu's? Come on, stop. And then it's Imavov and Izzy versus Volkanovski twice. And it's like, I'm sorry, man. Volkanovski is better. He's just better. I don't care if you beat the same guy twice. You beat the same guy twice, that's actually pretty impressive. Max Holloway beats Aldo twice. That's actually good. That's impressive because the first time there was a close fight, he needed to beat him twice. Short notice. Short notice is a good thing to bring up, but it didn't go into the later rounds, so the short notice element wasn't that big of a factor. He still outskilled him. Volkanovski doesn't just lose the skills out of nowhere. Islam is the fighter of the year, 49-46, and sending the #1 pound-for-pound GOAT to the Shadow Realm in the first round is more impressive than beating Abu Nasruddin and Izzy, robbed fighters from wins and isn't good. Oh, yeah, Izzy, who robbed fighters from wins and isn't good. Yeah, like people talk about Izzy. Izzy's overrated. As soon as Strickland beats him, we beat Izzy, though, and that's the fighter of the year, man. It's not the upset. I don't care if it's an upset. I don't care. Now, let me just say this one more time. If this was one of the cases where there's only like 3 awards and we don't really do the upset, we don't really do the most improved fighter, I could understand there being a wider margin to give the fighter of the year to Strickland. It's more subjective, but it's not subjective if there are so many different awards that we know of. And the fighter of the year clearly means which fighter had the best wins. Okay? It's not which fighter showed the biggest fighting spirit. That's not what it is. The fighter of the year is not who had the best fighting spirit. It's not what it is. This is not a movie. This is real life. Okay? This is real life. This is not the Cinderella story. It is a objective pick. And I'm right. Okay? I'm right here. I'm coming on to cook. I'm cooking with Volk. Volk is also a weight bully. Listen, I think that the weight bully thing is ridiculous. I don't think guys should be considered weight bullies. Everyone cuts an arm and a leg. Your stature doesn't matter. All that matters is how much you weigh in the offseason, how much you weigh when you walk around in comparison to where you fight at. You can be built like Corey Sandhagen and be a weight bully. You could be built like Jalen Turner and be a weight bully. And you could also be built like Daniel Cormier. If Daniel Cormier is fighting at welterweight, people could call him a weight bully. People are like, oh, DC's just way bigger and stronger than all these other guys. Roid Rage from Lucas. This ain't Roid Rage. This is just passion, man. I just hate when people unanimously just don't think on this and just give Strickland the fighter of the year because he was more inspirational. It's not an inspirational award. And they clearly have a bias against Islam. Like, I'm not saying the only reason they don't give Makhachev the fighter of the year is because they have a bias against him, but it's part of it because they bring up the whole featherweight thing. They don't do that for other fighters. No one talks about Khabib beating a featherweight McGregor, beat a featherweight. No one mentions that. No one mentions that ever. No one mentions that about Stipe beating DC. I know DC used to fight at heavyweight. I know that. No one mentions Stipe beating DC, saying he took out a light heavyweight. Not impressive. Beat a light heavyweight twice. No one says it. And it's just because Makhachev is related to Khabib. That's what it is. Thank you for the $5. Lucas's fighter of the year is Ian Machado Gary. Vegan diet and pure dominance, dude. Okay. He's pretty close. He's definitely got a better argument than Strickland. I'll tell you that much. A better argument than Strickland. But for real, though, for real, Ian Gary's win over Neil Magny is better than Strickland's win over Abus. I'm not saying any of his other wins are better than Imavov. Beating Imavov is better than all of Gary's wins this year. Okay. Like, Imavov is a good win, but still, compared to Volk, it's just like run of the mill. Does anyone really care about fighter of the year? Apparently, because people are saying I'm an absolute fool for saying Makhachev is. I mean, like, listen, at the end of the day, this is just because I'm passionate about MMA and like I get pretty I get very defensive over like which takes I believe to be just without a doubt true. And I don't like it when there's a huge majority of people that are siding with someone for the wrong reasons when it comes to the fighter of the year, which is a resume question. And it's not necessarily a who do you like question or the inspiration question. Fighter of the year, if there were no other awards, if it was just who showed the fighter spirit, you know, maybe it's the local homeless man. Maybe it's the local homeless man that fought tooth and nail to get a job, and you know, maybe we'll give him the one. We'll give the local homeless man that got a job and cleaned his act up the fighter of the year because that guy's a fighter, right? There's always someone that you may give one of those hungry 1FC guys fighter of the year. Give one of those hungry 1FC guys fighter of the year for gritting down on the mouthpiece and slugging it out in my tie. I don't necessarily think that it should be just who showcased the best fighter spirit. So by your logic, if Gaethje beats Makhachev, he's fighter of the year over Brendan Allen. If he beats Cannonier, DDP, and Strickland, dude, you're relating Cannonier, DDP, and Strickland to Imavov and Abus Magomedov. If Strickland had beat Robert Whittaker in December, like let's say Strickland defended his belt against Dricus du Plessis at 296, I'd be calling him fighter of the year. If Strickland had beat one other really good middleweight, like DDP, I'd be calling him fighter of the year. So it's totally different. And you're saying if Gaethje beat Makhachev, yes, if Gaethje beat Makhachev twice, he'd be fighter of the year over a guy that beats Abus Magomedov and Imavov. Yes, he would. Of course. 100%. Dude, if someone beats Makhachev twice next year, 2 times, that's probably fighter of the year unless anyone else does something that's insane. Like, I don't take into account the upsets. I do a little bit. That's something that's somewhat important. But I don't take into account how a fighter makes you feel, how inspirational their story was. If their back was against the wall, I don't care. People talk about Strickland. His back was against the wall. He beat Abus. Oh, great. He beat Abus Magomedov. Like, dude, if he beat Alex Pereira, he came back and he knocked out Pereira after Pereira knocked him out. Different story. We'd have a different conversation. People were acting like Strickland was supposed to lose every single fight that he had this year. The UFC wanted him to lose against Abus. Fair enough. But come on, people that knew the sport were picking Strickland. And the worst thing is the short notice thing. Strickland got off the couch to fight Izzy. He had 6 weeks. Since when is 6 weeks? A month and a half hopping off the couch. He hopped off the couch like Volk. No, off the couch is only applicable when it's 3 weeks or less. 3 weeks or less. Just say you're casual. Okay. If Shavkat beat Islam on a week's notice, that wouldn't make him fighter of the year. If Shavkat and Makhachev had one of the closest fights of the year, and Shavkat outgrappled Makhachev, and Shavkat's defense looked better than Makhachev, and he won the fight by decision, and then later that year proved that over Makhachev, who's the toughest fight he's ever had, for example, and Makhachev, you know, being a guy that hasn't lost, if he knocks him out later that year, yeah, he probably is the fighter of the year. How is that hard to understand? Beating the pound for pound #1 fighter twice. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Pretty impressive. So yes, hard to disagree, to be honest. How? You're rating Abus Magomedov and Imavov as good wins? How? I don't understand it. Volk is a top 5 fighter ever. Why are you rating Abus Magomedov so highly? If Makhachev beat Paddy Pimblett, I wouldn't be arguing that helps his resume. If Makhachev beat a guy like Tony Ferguson or Clay Guida this year, I wouldn't be saying, yeah, I'm taking that into account. I wouldn't even mention it. It's a decent fighter. He's shit. He's literally shit. He gasses out after one round. He's terrible. Abus Magomedov is horrible. He got knocked out by Bilal Muhammad's 50-year-old coach. He got destroyed by Cal Baraujo, who's a decent fighter. Cal even ranked. Abus Magomedov had one fight in the UFC over a can. He's not a good fighter in comparison to the average middleweight. He is literally top 5 worst middleweight right now. He's horrible. If Makhachev beat Chase Hooper, I wouldn't be saying, oh, wow, what an amazing win, but that would still be a better win than Abus, straight up. So I don't rate that at all. I don't even take that into account. The only way I would take that into account is if the other circumstances were not as impressive. Like if Makhachev beat Volk once. Cal's a top 10 guy right now. Bro's being done dirty. Cal Baraujo isn't that great, and he's not in the top 10 of the middleweight division. He's not in the top 10. Like, you could literally just look that up. I don't even know if he's ranked. I don't even know if he's ranked. He may be ranked like 14 right now. Sorry, man. You just can't compare it. You can't compare it. Beating up cans, like, dude, you could give Gaethje the fighter of the year. Gaethje has better wins than Sean Strickland. Gaethje beat Dustin Poirier, and he beat Rafael Fiziev. Those are better than Imavov and Abus. No one's talking about Gaethje as the fighter of the year. I know he beat Izzy. It's not the Izzy on top award. Sean Strickland has 2 completely mediocre wins that don't mean much. Then it's Izzy. Okay, great. 1 good win and 2 horrible, mediocre wins does not make you the fighter of the year. Get over it. I know you're a fan of Strickland. I know you love his personality. I know he was inspiring. I know he proved the haters wrong. I get it. I know he got rid of Izzy. It doesn't mean he's the fighter of the year. He doesn't have better wins on paper. He doesn't have a better resume this year. He just doesn't. Beating pound for pound number 1 fighter twice is more impressive objectively. End of. Imavov is low-key impressive, though. Imavov's good. Imavov is a good fighter. But you're comparing him to Volkanovski, who literally has never lost in his entire career up until he fought Makhachev. Imavov lost to Phil Hawes, my guy. Imavov lost to Phil Hawes. Like, I like Imavov. I think he's all right. But a champion should be able to beat this guy. All right? A champion should be able to beat this guy. This is like Makhachev taking out Dan Hooker. Okay, it's an okay win, but that's a run-of-the-mill win. You're comparing the greatest middleweight of all time in Imavov to 1 week's fat out of shape Volkanovski. That's what you're not getting. No, what you're not getting is that Volkanovski and his short notice camp didn't come into play in that fight. I know he was fat. He would have gotten KO'd by that kick anyway. And it didn't come into factor. The short notice didn't come into factor. If you're thinking that Volkanovski has no skills when he steps in on short notice, like, I understand that the gas tank wouldn't have been there. The strength and conditioning wouldn't have been there. His reservation was a little bit more than I expected, 100%. But at the same time, dude, I'm sorry, man. Volkanovski is still an amazing fighter, and he got outskilled. Watch the fight again. Makhachev just sets him up perfectly, keeps him at bay, shuts him down completely. Volkanovski even stuffed a takedown, showcasing that he actually was looking pretty strong, looking pretty good, and he just got head kick KO'd. That's called skill. It's called skill, man. 2 wins versus 3 elite wins. They're not 3 elite wins, and you know they're not elite. Elite wins, stop. Beating Abus Magomedov is not an elite win. And Adesanya is a 500-level fighter. 500-level fighter. Doesn't matter if it's an upset. Hey, man, Alex isn't fighter of the year. You can't get knocked out beginning of the year and be fighter of the year later that year. Props for not putting him up. Yeah, Alex is not fighter of the year. Definitely not. You can't get KO'd and then just win 2 fights and have a 2-1 record. He could be comeback fighter of the year. Personally, I think that he is comeback fighter of the year. Because even though other guys like Gaethje and Strickland came in the year off of losses, Gaethje getting destroyed by Charles and people saying he was kind of washed. And then you have Strickland coming off of the Cannonier loss and the Alex Pereira KO. I do believe that Pereira getting knocked out at the beginning of the year and turning around to win a belt, a #1 contenders fight, is indicative of comeback fighter of the year. Like, that's the epitome of what it means to be a comeback fighter. It's like, what's more impressive than coming into the year off of losses, starting the year brutal KO loss? That's more impressive. Strickland, even the upset of the year, I have to give to DDP. Personally, I know Strickland may be like, the Cinderella story of the year, fair enough. But I said that Dricus had a better chance of becoming president. Strickland had a little bit of a chance. He had a little bit of a chance. I gave him credit. I said it was going to be a tough fight for Izzy. But even Dricus's win over Whitaker was like more of a shock. It just was. A little more of a shock. Oh my gosh, I'm not a Strickland hater. I can't stand this. People swear that just because I'm not giving Strickland fighter of the year, I hate Strickland. and I'm a Glazer or Makhachev, I'm just being objective, man. I'm trying to be objective. Cinderella story of the year is crazy. He is. That's it. That's fine. Strickland's a Cinderella story. He's the inspirational guy. He's the guy that got rid of the big bad Izzy, but he ain't fighter of the year. Dricus is a better fighter of the year candidate than Strickland. I mean, he beat Whitaker and he beat Derek Brunson. I mean, those are good, but I don't necessarily think that Derek Brunson's a better win than a Mavov. I actually think beating a Mavov is better than beating Derek Brunson. So I disagree. I think Strickland had a better year than Dricus. Lucas hates Izzy more than Pereira. I don't hate Izzy. I actually want Izzy to come back. The middleweight division was at least, listen, the middleweight division is still entertaining because it's arguably the best it's ever been, but like Izzy makes the middleweight division fun as well. It's just his fight buildups are fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.